No one remembered the first ship that disappeared near Earth. It was just another survey drone from the outer colonies, a silent blip on the galactic radar. But then it became 10, then 50, then 5,000. Every ship that passed into the Sol system vanished, completely. No debris, no distress call, just gone. At 9,900 ships lost, the Galactic Union finally declared Earth a black zone. No contact, no retrieval, no exceptions. The system was sealed on the official charts, stamped with red warnings that stretched across galactic star maps. Avoid Sol. Absolute non-interference. Unknown threat level. Assumed catastrophic. It should have ended there. But then, 17 ships returned. They came back all at once, not through gates, not along expected travel lines, but dropped into known Union space as if punched out of nothing. Burned, mangled, some half imploded yet flying. Their hulls bore deep gouges like they'd been torn open by claws. Not metal tools, not lasers. Claws. Organic, massive, and furious. Their onboard data was scrambled beyond repair, but all 17 carried something worse than logs. They carried survivors. Only 23 crew members were pulled out across all the ships. Most didn't speak. The few who did whispered of Earth, as if it had turned into something primal, unholy. They didn't call it Earth anymore. They called it the Maw. I saw it blink. One engineer muttered through cracked lips, his eyes permanently dilated. The planet blinked, and then the screams started. Not ours. Theirs. High Command tried to suppress the footage, but like every great secret in the galaxy, it leaked. The most infamous clip, played over and over in back channels and black market feeds, came from the cruiser Tessari 9. It was just 15 seconds of footage before the cam feed glitched into static. A vast black sky. Then something moved, a shape, impossibly large, curling around Earth like a serpent. Not a ship, not a station, a thing. And then the crew started screaming, "It's inside our minds! It's inside!" Then silence. The survivors were quarantined under a D-class restriction level, the same used for viral outbreak worlds or God-class AIs. One survivor tore out her own vocal cords during containment. Another tried to eat through the hull of the medbay using his teeth. None lived longer than a month. Some said the survivors were just conduits, vessels for whatever message Earth had sent back. But one of the 17 ships, a small scout vessel known as Helios Mare, carried something stranger than any of the others. It was completely untouched. No damage. Pristine. And inside it sat a single crew member. Human. Fully alive. Fully conscious. Sitting in perfect silence with a calmness that disturbed the interrogators more than any broken scream. His name was Captain Idris Kale. Last known location, Lunar Colony 314, Earth's moon station, abandoned after Earth was quarantined. His record said he had died during the Second Interplanetary War, a full century ago. He looked 35. When questioned, he only gave one answer. One sentence that rippled through the Union like a shockwave of dread. "You sent your armies to Earth, and Earth woke up." He never spoke again. 2 days later, the Helios Mare vanished from the containment dock. Not warped, not stolen, just gone. In its place, written scorched into the hangar floor, were 7 words. "Come again, and you'll wake it fully." The Union didn't speak of Earth anymore, but some say the number has risen, that the missing ships count is now past 15,000. That more are returning, but they're empty, hollow, drifting tombs with no crew. Only symbols etched in walls, circles with teeth, spirals made of bone. And then there are the whispers. That Earth isn't a planet anymore. Not really, it's a gate, a being, a prison that woke up. And that somewhere beneath its surface, something is still hungry, Most people in the outer colonies don't even know what Earth was. To them, it's just a cursed name, buried in old star maps and redacted textbooks. But to those who served in the deep fleets, Earth is a shadow that follows you through the stars. It's the story they don't tell in training, the one the officers pretend doesn't exist. Admiral Reth Voss, commander of the Union's frontier line, had seen the footage. All of it. Not just the leaked clips, but the classified ones, the uncut, raw transmissions from the moment each of those 17 ships returned. He kept them locked in a private data core, off-grid, no sync, no trace. Watching them was like letting a part of himself rot away. One clip haunted him most, the final log from the Helios mare before it disappeared from Sol's orbit a century ago. It was dark, no lights, no movement. Just a single message looped on a black screen. The planet is speaking, and we are not listening. No coordinates, no exit vector. Just that voice repeating in a whisper like it had come from beneath the crust of Earth itself. What made no sense, what drove analysts mad, was that Earth, by all measurable scans, was dead silent. No EM activity, no signs of civilization, no satellites. Even the moon colonies were stripped bare, like someone had peeled off every trace of human history. But the ships kept disappearing. And now, the ones that returned weren't returning alone. Sector Zeta 9 picked up a drifting freighter 2 days ago. No call sign, no known ship class, made of alloys never recorded in any Union registry. It had grown into the shape of a vessel, like a shell formed around something soft. It pulsed, literally pulsed, with heat like a living body. Inside they found no crew, no power systems, no engines. But there was a cockpit. And in that cockpit, a simple recording device. Old, human-made, analog. The tape started on its own when brought to Union labs. "I was born on Earth," a woman's voice began. Calm, human, tired, before it became what it is now, before it remembered. No name, no time markers, just a soft voice that spoke like a confession, as if Earth had ears. They tried to take it. You all did. You came to the planet thinking it was lost, abandoned. You forgot it grew us. You forgot the soil still remembers our bones. You thought you could conquer it like you conquered the stars. The voice paused. A slow breath. You woke it. The lab where the recording played suffered a blackout seconds later. When power returned, 3 technicians were gone. Not dead. Gone. Their bioscans erased. Their rooms emptied. Their ID chips, once implanted beneath their skin, were found fused to the metal walls like they'd melted there. Admiral Voss ordered all Union systems to halt any decoding attempts, but the voice had already spread. Across back channels, pirate broadcasts, AI ghost feeds. The message played like a warning. No, not a warning. A reminder. Meanwhile, far from Union space, in the outskirts of human-settled asteroid belts, a cult was forming. They called themselves Children of the Moor. Former miners, hackers, rogue explorers, they wore Earth's old symbol tattooed over their eyes. They spoke of the planet not as a place, but a god, one buried and forgotten by its own children. They claimed the planet was reshaping, that its oceans had reversed, that something was building beneath the mantle, slow, patient, waiting. And the strangest part, they were right. Deep scans from rogue observatories began detecting seismic pulses unlike anything in recorded planetary behavior. Not tectonic movement, heartbeat, slow, rhythmic, expanding. Even worse, unregistered signals started broadcasting from Jupiter's orbit. A binary code, repeating, layered in frequencies only detectable by Union AI cores. The message translated only once, and then the decoders fried. It remembers who left. Now even the most skeptical Union brass whispered behind closed doors. No one dared suggest it aloud, but the truth was creeping into their minds like a disease. Earth wasn't passive. It was watching, waiting, and it wasn't done yet. Captain Elara Mern had never believed in ghosts, not the kind that came from planets. She was a systems engineer by trade, a battle-tested officer from the Union's Red Armada, and someone who had survived 4 orbital sieges. But now, floating aboard the Lucent Warden just beyond Pluto's orbit, she was starting to think the stars had been lying to them all along. They were tracking something enormous, no heat signature, no light trail. But it was there, moving between planets without propulsion, warping gravity fields in its wake. It had passed Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn, and it was coming toward them. Every sensor aboard the Lucent Warden screamed blank. The AI stuttered trying to describe what it was detecting. Not a ship, not a comet, not a life form. Something else, something unclassified, something the system kept calling native. Elara stood with her boots magnetized to the observation deck floor, staring into the void. Nothing visible, but she felt it, like being watched through layers of dark water. She had felt it since the message leaked from Jupiter's orbit. It remembers who left. The Warden had been one of the last few Union dreadnoughts allowed near Sol. A containment observer, they called it. Their mission wasn't to engage, it was to watch. But no one ever explained what they were watching for. The crew had started to go silent over the last week. Quiet meals, short orders, no laughter. Even the reactor's low hum had started to sound different. Hollow. Wrong. Then, without warning, the stars disappeared. One by one. Not dimming. Just gone. It started at the edge of the visual field. A crescent of black swallowing the horizon like a mouth closing. No alarms triggered. No system failure. Just raw absence. Elara blinked, turned, and saw the fear bloom in her navigator's eyes. "Captain," the ensign whispered, pointing toward Earth's last known position. There was something there. A sphere. Gigantic. Darker than anything Elara had ever seen. It wasn't just absorbing light, it was erasing it. The planet once called Earth no longer glowed. It pulsed, a slow, thunderous rhythm, like a sleeping beast drawing breath. But they weren't the only ones watching it. Across several solar units, deep in the shadows of Saturn's shattered moon, Dion, another ship lingered. Smaller, sleeker, not Union. It was a Seeker class, one of the banned vessels created by the rogue engineers of the Descent Fold, scientists exiled for trying to connect with Earth through ancient terror coding. Aboard it was a single pilot, Dr. Maren Holt. She had spent the last 20 years decoding the messages from the 17 returned ships, piecing together fragments of Earth's strange new intelligence, if it could be called that. She believed Earth had evolved beyond matter, beyond biology, that it had become something like a mind, or a trap for minds, and now it was reaching out. When she saw the black void bloom across her telescope feed, she didn't panic. She whispered, "It's starting." She activated a beacon on her ship, an old Earth frequency, outlawed in most systems. A pulse of raw data encoded in ancient human music, vibrations older than digital protocol. A song. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. The beacon began its slow transmission toward the planet. As soon as it hit Earth's orbit, every Union ship in the system received the same signal at once. A child's voice, garbled, repeating, "Come home, we remember your skin." The Lucent Warden systems shut down in response. Lights out. Gravity lost. Even the emergency backups failed. No controls. No escape. The crew floated in the dark, weightless, helpless. Outside, the sphere continued to grow, not approaching them, but stretching, like a mouth unhinging. Captain Alara clutched the edge of a steel rail to anchor herself. "This isn't an attack," she whispered. "It's an invitation." From her distant position, Dr. Holt's ship received a final transmission from within the black sphere. Not words, not code, a memory, a view of Earth from orbit. Green, blue, alive, and a whisper. "We were never your home. You were ours." Then the blackness surged outward, across space, toward the Union fleet. They never even had time to scream. The surge from Earth wasn't like an energy wave or a gravitational pulse. It wasn't measurable. It was presence, a swallowing pressure that poured into every ship, every sensor, every thought. The Lucent Warden didn't explode. It didn't disintegrate. It simply ceased, like a skipped frame in a film. One moment there, the next. Missing. But the crew didn't die. They woke up. Captain Alara opened her eyes to a sky she didn't recognize. Not the dark cold of space, not the sterile lights of a ship. A sky full of swirling colors, violets, silvers, shifting reds like molten wine poured through glass. She was lying on something soft, not metal, not organic. It pulsed beneath her like the skin of a breathing world. Around her, the others stirred. Her crew, the rest of the Lucent Warden, dozens of them, dazed, silent, still in their uniforms, unharmed, all present, all accounted for. Except the stars were wrong. No constellations, no planets, just that sky, moving. Alara stood up, blinking. "Report," she said out of habit, voice cracking. But no one moved. They were all staring at the same thing. Across the strange terrain, perhaps a kilometer away, stood a single figure. It looked human, but it shimmered at the edges, as if it couldn't decide on one form. Its skin moved like clouds trapped under glass. And when it spoke, its voice came from inside their minds. "This is not Earth." The crew flinched. Some fell to their knees. A medic began sobbing, uncontrollably, mumbling prayers from a dead religion. Alara gritted her teeth, pushing past her own panic. "Where are we?" The figure blinked, or shimmered again. Then it pointed toward the pulsing ground beneath their feet. "Inside remembrance. Your planet has remembered. You are now inside what it became." It didn't make sense. Alara wanted to scream at it, tell it to stop speaking in riddles. But deep inside her bones, she knew it wasn't lying. This place wasn't a simulation. It wasn't a trap. It was Earth, or some version of it. Not as a location, but a state. A collective dream born from everything left behind. She stepped forward. "Why are we here?" The figure tilted its head. A soft smile, almost pitiful. "You called it Mother, and now the Mother calls you." Across the strange horizon, the sky darkened. Shapes began to form. Massive silhouettes rising out of the ground, built not from matter but from memory. Cities, battleships, trees from extinct forests, statues of forgotten leaders. The very history of Earth was rebuilding itself into a landscape of ghosts. And then the truth clicked in Alara's mind. "This isn't just a memory," she whispered. "It's a message." The ground beneath her responded with a low pulse. Affirmation. The crew was silent, many in shock. A few were muttering nonsense already breaking. But Alara held on, her soldier's mind snapping into survival mode. She turned to the figure. "What does Earth want?" The figure's shimmering stopped. For the first time, it looked solid and cold. To return. And to remind the galaxy who birthed it. And then, they saw them, walking out from the ghost cities, from between the ruins, from the trees of memory and the oceans of thought. Humans, thousands, millions, people who had been lost, forgotten, declared dead in the ship disappearances. Soldiers, explorers, colonists, scientists, all alive. But not quite. Their eyes glowed faintly, their movements smooth, synchronized. They didn't speak. They just stood, surrounding the Lucent Warden's crew like a choir of silence. Behind them, rising slowly into the sky like a god standing up from sleep, a shape formed. The earth, no longer blue or green, but obsidian, veined with gold, and alive. Captain Ilara's comm unit buzzed suddenly. Impossible, in this place. A static-filled voice came through, Dr. Maren Holt. You're inside its thought space. The Earth has become a mind, a memory engine. It's absorbing every piece of itself back, and we're next. It doesn't want revenge. It wants completion. Then the transmission cut. Ilara turned, staring at the figures approaching from the horizon, her own dead crewmates among them. And she realized, Earth wasn't done with them. It was only beginning. Ilara's breath came slow, controlled, but her heart hammered against her ribs like it wanted out. Around her, the gathered crew remained motionless, caught somewhere between awe and paralysis. The dead were walking toward them. Only, they weren't dead. Or if they were, Earth had dragged them back into something new. These were the crews of the vanished 9,900 ships. Some she recognized from classified briefings, like the Korean Solstice, whose captain had once been her instructor at the academy. Others had been declared lost during the first wave of the disappearances. Their uniforms were faded, their faces ageless, but their presence was undeniable. The shimmering figure at the center of the dreamscape raised one hand. Do not fear them. They are not here to harm you. They are us. Ilara narrowed her eyes. Us? Fragments, data, reassembled flesh and thought. Earth remembers every atom it gave you. You're saying these people were reconstructed? Ilara asked, her voice low. The figure didn't blink, didn't move. Number they never left. You took the ships, you took the skies, but Earth kept what mattered. One of the figures stepped forward from the crowd of memory people. A young woman, short hair, blackened flight suit, Union badge half torn from her chest. She looked at Ilara with a sadness that crushed the breath from her lungs. Ilara? The woman asked, voice trembling with familiarity. Ilara's heart skipped. Dara, her sister, her dead sister, killed 15 years ago during the Union's siege of Phobos, her body never recovered. Ilara had mourned her, buried her memory, buried the guilt of ordering that last evac. And now she stood here, pale but whole, eyes wide like she remembered everything. How are you here? Ilara whispered, stepping forward. Dara's hand reached out, but it didn't feel right. The skin shimmered like heat haze, barely solid. Her smile twitched, and when Ilara touched her, 100 images exploded behind her eyes. Childhood laughter, dust storms on Mars, Dara's death, Dara's last scream, then silence, then darkness, then a voice cut through the wave. Not Dara's, not the shimmering guide, Earth's. You forget what it meant to be born from me. It came from everywhere, the sky, the air, the ground. A voice like mountains folding, like oceans boiling. You mined me. You cut your names into my skin. You left when I began to wither. You sought the stars, believing yourselves gods. But gods do not forget their mother. Ilara fell to one knee, blood seeping from her nose. The rest of the crew were on the ground too, twitching, moaning. A few screamed, a few stared, eyes rolled back, whispering fragments of their own pasts. This wasn't communication, it was download. Earth was pushing its thoughts into them. Memories, regrets, vengeance without anger, remembrance without forgiveness. Then the image of Dara began to crack. She stepped back, eyes wide, mouth stretching unnaturally. Ilara, she choked, voice flickering between tones. Run! Then she shattered, burst into vapor like dust caught in a sunbeam. The others began to crumble too, the whole illusion tearing like rotted cloth. The fake cities, the dream trees, the sky. It all came apart, pixel by pixel, revealing a void beneath, a great black expanse with a massive golden core glowing deep below them like the heart of a dying sun. Elara stood, teeth gritted. We're still alive. If it wanted us dead, we'd be dead. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Harvin, barely nodded from the ground. Maybe it doesn't want to kill us. Maybe it wants to turn us. She shook her head. Number, we're not its children anymore. We left. You were never meant to leave. Earth's voice boomed. You were a dream I had. And now, I wake. And that's when she felt it. A pull in her spine. A gravity inside her own skull. Memories that weren't hers. A family she never had. A garden that had never existed. A future she'd never lived. Earth was trying to overwrite her. It didn't need bodies. It needed stories, minds, consciousness. Her scream split the silence as she bit down hard on her lip, drawing blood, grounding herself in pain, in the present. Resist it, she yelled to her crew. Don't let it tell you who you were. Don't let it rewrite you. A low rumble shook the dream beneath them. Then a light pierced the void. Not from Earth, from above. A flare, a Union beacon. It was Doctor, Holt's ship. From outside the mind space, she had fired a quantum sync burst, an emergency extraction code from old Earth tech, designed to eject lost crews from unstable AI simulations. The dream cracked further. A scream, not human, ripped through the void. Earth's true voice, furious, awakened, hungry. Then everything inverted. Color, light, space. And Elara and her crew began to fall, upward, sideways, nowhere, back toward their bodies, back toward the stars, back to whatever Earth hadn't yet taken. Elara awoke to the sound of alarms screaming inside the lucent warden. Gravity returned like a punch to the chest. She slammed into the grated floor, breath crushed from her lungs, vision blurred. The overhead lights stuttered erratically, bathing the ship in pulses of red and white. Her ears rang, her skin burned, and for a moment she couldn't tell whether she had escaped or simply dreamed a new version of the trap. But then the cold came. Real cold. Not the dream's warmth. Not that illusion of pulsing soil and breathing skies. This was steel. Vacuum. Reality. She rolled over with a groan and saw her crew strewn around the command deck, coughing, retching, eyes wide and glassy. Harvin was half dragged across the floor, one hand still clutching a pulse rifle he hadn't fired in weeks. Elara grabbed a panel and hauled herself upright. The console screens were fried, crackled with static and flickering system restarts, but the main nav readout was intact enough to show one thing. They were moving. The lucent warden was adrift, caught in the gravitational pull of Neptune, slowly being pulled into its atmosphere. How the hell? She gasped, her throat raw. Then a face appeared on the flickering comms screen. Dr. Marin Holt. She looked half dead, pale, blood crusted on her forehead. But alive. Got you, she said hoarsely. Wasn't sure it'd work, but you're back. Elara blinked, mind swimming. That wasn't a simulation, was it? Holt's silence was answer enough. Number you were inside it. Or inside what Earth's become. A memory being. A networked entity running on bioplanetary consciousness. Something in between a god and a grave. Elara's hands curled into fists. It tried to rewrite us. It succeeded with most of the others. You were lucky. That word, lucky, sent a wave of nausea through Elara's stomach. Where are the rest of the 17 ships? She asked, her voice steadier now. Holt's eyes narrowed. Gone. Or maybe not. Their crews never really left. Earth keeps them inside itself, running them through loops, maybe millions of times. A prison, or a test, or a warning. How did you pull us out? Ilara asked, half knowing she wouldn't like the answer. Dr. Holt hesitated. Then, I used Earth's own backdoor. A remnant code built into the quantum lattice of its magnetic field. Something old, buried in nursery rhymes, folk songs, myth. Earth doesn't just run on memory, it feeds on meaning. So I gave it one it couldn't digest. Ilara stared. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Holt nodded once. It confused the algorithm, gave me a few seconds to fire the burst and rip you out, like coughing during a dream to wake up. That was what Earth had become. Not a weapon, not a world, a living story, one trying to finish its own chapter. Behind her, the rest of the crew were regaining clarity. Murmurs rose, cries, then silence again. Because someone was missing. Dara, Ilara's knees gave slightly. She looked around the bridge. Her sister wasn't there. She had never been there. The memory was still with her, like smoke, clinging to her thoughts. She's still in there, Ilara said softly. Harvin, sitting upright now, looked at her. Captain? She was in the dream. She was part of it. But I felt her. Not just code. She was real in there. Dr. Holt sighed. Sometimes Earth builds from fragments of what we bury. Sometimes it keeps more than memory. Ilara looked to the stars. Neptune's pale light flickered off the view glass. And there, far in the distance, past the planetary rings, a black shimmer floated in space, barely visible, like oil in water. Earth, not the planet, the presence. It had followed them, a tiny ripple of impossible dark, still watching, still listening, still remembering. Holt's voice dropped to a whisper. We woke it. Now, it's reading us. And next time it won't let go. Ilara gritted her teeth. We can't let there be a next time. The briefing room aboard the Lucent Warden was silent, save for the occasional hum of emergency power cycling through half-dead systems. The walls, once polished steel, now bore hairline fractures from the gravitational abuse they'd suffered during extraction. A single Union flag, creased, frayed, and stained with blood, hung limp over the comms console. Captain Ilara Mern stood at the head of the table, eyes hollow, face streaked with grime and dried sweat. Her crew sat before her, fewer now. A third were gone, taken or broken by the memory space Earth had trapped them in. The rest stared back with haunted eyes, each carrying something behind them that wouldn't be spoken aloud. She tapped the console. A projection lit up. It wasn't a star map. It was Earth, the old Earth, blue, fragile, spinning in real time. This was taken by a long-range buoy 20 hours ago, Ilara said, voice sharp, flat. Except this feed doesn't make sense because the real Earth isn't blue anymore. The image on the screen shimmered. A lag. A glitch. Then, for 2 full seconds, the screen blinked. The planet's color inverted. Black. Gold-veined. Pulsing. Then it returned to blue. One of the lieutenants whispered, It's masking itself? Ilara nodded. It's presenting an image the galaxy expects to see. A projection for distant observers. But we were inside it. We know better. Harvin leaned forward, eyes dark. So we call it in. Bring the Union fleet. Erase the damn thing from orbit. Holt's voice cut in from the back. You can't erase a god? Heads turned. She was leaning against the wall, visibly weaker than before, but alert. Her hands trembled as she clutched a portable scanner, its display looping incomprehensible code patterns. You don't kill this thing with plasma or railguns. You don't kill it at all. It's not just a planet anymore. It's consciousness. A living recursion loop of everything humanity left behind. It thinks in symbols, It moves through memory. It doesn't exist in just one form. It exists in all of them. Harvin scoffed. So what, we just accept it? Let it suck down every soul that drifts too close? No, Alara snapped, stepping forward. We fight on its terms. Silence. She turned back to the projection. Earth became this because we left it, because we forgot it, abandoned it. It festered in that silence, warped itself into something. Hungry. If it feeds on memory, on meaning, then maybe we can starve it. Holt shook her head. You can't starve a thing that already devoured everything you are. It doesn't just want to consume us. It wants to finish the story we started. Tie off the last thread. Alara's fingers tapped the console again, opening a new window. A schematic of Earth's magnetic structure overlaid with symbols, ancient, human, cultural, ritualistic, archetypes, myths. This thing is telling a story, a final one, that humanity never really left, that we came back, that we belong to it. And if we let it finish? Harvin asked, jaw tight. Then we vanish, not in flame, in forgetting. Holt stepped forward, the scanner beeping faster now. There may be a way to break the pattern. She pulled up a fragment of audio from the Warden's dream core, voices from the mind space, layered and looping. A chorus of human languages, all saying the same word over and over. Home. It's trying to anchor itself through emotional truth, the idea that it was always our home, that we are part of it, forever. But what if that's not true anymore? What if we've changed too much to be part of it again? Alara's eyes sharpened. You're saying we challenge the narrative? Holt nodded slowly. We overwrite it, with a new one, a better one. Harvin laughed bitterly. What the hell does that even mean? We write a poem at it? Broadcast a speech? No, Alara said. We go back. Everyone froze. What? We land on it, she said, voice calm, eyes hard. We show it we're not what it thinks we are. We're not lost children. We're not broken code. We're something else now. Something Earth didn't raise. Something it can't control. Harvin stared. That's suicide. It's necessary, she said. It dragged us in once. We go in on purpose this time, with clarity, with will. With story. They didn't speak for a long time. Then, slowly, the crew began to nod. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were authors now. And Earth's final chapter wasn't going to write them. The Lucent Warden was never meant to enter Earth's orbit again. Its thrusters groaned, ion drives pushed beyond spec. The hull creaked under gravity not felt in over a century. Still it descended, one final drop through the black, toward the planet that had once been their cradle, and had become something far stranger. Below the Earth shimmered, not blue, not gold, but both, shifting, breathing. Great veins of memory glowed across its surface like the synapses of a sleeping brain. Cities were gone. Forests, oceans, mountains, reformed into geometries that pulsed with symbolic intent. Everything about the planet now was intentional. There were no continents, only concepts. From orbit they could see massive structures shaped like eyes, others curled like fingerprints. One looked like an ancient tree, except it reached into the clouds and bent them into spirals. This was no longer Earth. This was legacy. Approaching stratosphere, Harvin reported, knuckles white on the controls. Captain Alara stood behind him, armored now, not in steel but meaning. Every crew member wore symbols stitched into their uniforms, fragments of forgotten language, names of the dead, ancient poems, songs. Holt believed the only defense against a being that fed on story was to become one. They were writing their own myth now. No return vector, Alara reminded them. If you want out, take the drop pods and vanish now. No one moved. We go in together, Harvin said. The ship pierced the atmosphere. Almost instantly, everything around them changed. The air glowed with colors their senses couldn't name. The clouds didn't move. They watched. Strange winds pressed against the hull not with force, but emotion. Alara felt grief in her bones, heard laughter in the static. Somewhere deep in the distance, a million voices whispered, "Home! Home! Home!" Holt stood at the forward viewport, watching the surface rise. "It knows we're coming. Let it," Alara said. The ship touched down in what was once the African continent, now an endless plain of obsidian, cracked with golden script. The earth hummed under their boots as they stepped out, each vibration whispering a question they could feel in their teeth. "Why did you leave?" The sky above didn't show stars. It showed memories, fragmented images of humanity, war, love, loss, triumph, birth, extinction. Over and over, an eternal loop. Holt raised a device, a crude broadcaster, ancient, analog, impossible for Earth to fully digest. "I'm injecting the first narrative overwrite," she said. Alara nodded. She stepped forward onto the black ground and began to speak, not to Earth, but at it. A declaration. "We are not yours," she said loudly. "We were born of you, but we have outgrown you, and we do not consent to your story." "You were my dream," Earth replied, through wind, through dust, through memories crawling from the cracks. "Then wake up," Alara said. "Let us go." The ground quaked. Figures began to emerge, replicas of them, again, their past selves, lovers, enemies, family, all perfectly reconstructed. Earth's final weapon. Alara didn't run. She walked forward, past her dead sister's smiling echo, past the replica of her own childhood self, standing with wide eyes and outstretched arms. "Not this time," she whispered. Then she placed the analog broadcaster into the ground. It began to play. A human heartbeat, a cry, a scream, a song, not Earth's story, theirs, raw, imperfect, chaotic. Free, the sky split. Above, the memory field fractured like glass under stress. The images broke, the voices changed, Earth's surface shimmered, and the eyes in the soil closed. Alara fell to her knees as pressure lifted off her body. Holt collapsed beside her, weeping. "You did it," Holt whispered. "No," Alara said, breathless. "We did. We changed the ending." All across the surface, the golden light dimmed. The story had been broken. Earth, the being, the entity, the God memory, paused. It listened. And for the first time in its long, unbroken recursion of grief and hunger, it let go. Not of memory, but of control. The Lucent Warden's systems came back online. One by one, blinking lights across the ship's frame. A path opened in the sky. And Earth was silent. Not erased, not defeated, but free, just as they were. Alara stood, staring at the world that had once been mother, tyrant, prison, myth. "Goodbye," she whispered. Then she turned and walked towards the ship, no longer part of Earth's story, writing her own.